So he thought he wouldn't do that the next time. So come to the next turn, my brother didn't give in, and the guy with his other car ran off. And he went through some lady's garden and hit a garage and knocked her foot off the foundation. She come out of the house and made him pay for the damage that he had done. And my brother got a bent fender out of it. He won the race, but he got 10 gallons of gas for winning it.
There's no big payoff in those days, huh? I got a note that Art Celine should tell about claiming a cop car to something I can't read. Now, Art, where are you?
Dave.
Dave Celine, I'm sorry. Dave Celine. What about
you going to tell this one or not?
There you go. Come on up here, Caesar, dragging the microphone. I'll meet you halfway.
Well, that really isn't my story. That must have been Ted Arneson put that number up there. This was an acquaintance of mine that pulled that little stunt at the Hasty Tasty on what was it, 38th and Lindale. Chained the rear end of the police car to the telephone pole, and then went driving by in his 34 Roadster, tossing empty beer cans out the car and hitting the pavement. And of course, the cops inside heard that. They ran out and jumped in their cop car and tore her off out of the alley by the Hasty Tasty, and the rear end came right out of the car. I think that's where they got the idea for American Graffiti movie, because that was in the movie.
And this is all hearsay. Strictly hearsay.
I told the story to Ted about 30 years ago, and I never forgot about it.
The cop is still living.
And he's here. Forgive him for that,
What else we got here? We got some good stories tonight.
Jake Mazzoni.
Here you go, Harvey.
No, Jake Mazzoni.
You want me to talk to
Wait
Jake?
a minute. Do you remember?
Where's Jake?
Do you remember when Don came over? Do you remember when Don came over to my house? I was working on a 35 Pontiac two-door sedan with no windows in it. Do you remember that?
I remember the car.
And it fell on me.
Yeah.
And he picked the damn thing up by the front bumper. He picked it up, I got out from underneath it, I cracked 4 ribs, but he picked it up, and I got out of there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
You do now, yeah.
I'd forgotten it.
1945.
Yeah, he could be awful strong when he had to be.
Oh, man,
Whatever it took.
he did it.
Yeah. Jake, where's Jake?
Yeah.
Mazzoni.
I probably wasn't there when it was being done.
There's some questions asked about what happened to the Mortensen brothers. Well, the Mortensen brothers sold their bar, and they moved to Florida, and that's where they're at. That's where they're at right now. And then the question was asked about Stu Reamer.
Yeah.
It's as far as I know, they're alive and well. And the question was asked about Stu Reamer, and Stu Reamer is probably he went from IMCA, and then he went over to right outside of Chicago. I forget the racetrack, and he did some publicity there, and and then he went to Daytona, and he did publicity at Daytona. And as a matter of fact, I got done with one of Frank Winkley's seasons, and he called me up. I want to tell you how dumb I am. Really. He says, Jake, if you get down here, he says, the people have seen you and know that you can write stories and flag and technical man and all that. You get down here 3 days, and he says, you're working for NASCAR. Oh, I just got done with Winkley, and haven't seen any girls for months. And had a pocket full of money, and at that time NASCAR wasn't that big. But if I would have been there, I look at it all the time and say, God, but you're stupid, you know. And really, but Stu created a paper of his own, and it's especially in short tracks. And this is a paper that goes out to all of the racetracks in the country, and he holds workshops at Daytona, and he holds them also at one up in Canada, one a year, and then I forget, out in California, and there's always articles about him in the auto racing magazine, and I get the newsletter from him all the time. We talk quite a bit, and they call him the guru of short track auto racing, and he tells you, he gets the people on these things. Minnesota State Fair sent me down, and time, so I went to some of the meetings, and if you want to know how to run a racetrack, you'll get Goodyear up here, you'll get Firestone up here, we'll get Valvoline people up here, other people with ideas, how to set your beer thing up, what the temperature is, and all that sort of thing. So he sold half the paper, but he is still the assistant editor, and he lives out in out there in Chanhassen, yeah. So he's very successful, very knowledgeable, and doing very well. One thing about Don, and this is about this is the Pilots Club. So naturally, I used to hang out there so much I got my mail there. No kidding. Then get it home, got it at the Pilots Club. So I'm sitting on a beautiful summer evening, and all of a sudden here comes this black car roaring up there. And here comes Don inside, and he says, "Hey, come on out and look at this thing, will you?" And so it's a Mercedes. It was a Mercedes-Benz sports car, black. He says, "Come on, let's go for a ride." I don't know. Well, we jump into it, and that's from 6th and Cedar and up to 7 Corners, and then there's a Cedar Avenue bridge going over the intersection. Man, he's just screaming this thing all the way around. I'm hanging out for dear life. We got on the inside of the building. I says, "Come on, let's get back." And we got back, no police. I mean, didn't wreck the car, didn't blow it up, but I can honestly say I had one hell of a ride with Don Scoble, and I didn't want any more of them. Any other questions?
He was an exciting driver. That's good news about Stu. That's kind of a dream for many of us, to be able to make a career out of racing and make a living out of it. It sounds like he's doing it really well. I've got some albums that I brought along and some loose pictures for those of you that are interested. They're up on the front tables here. There's dirt track cars plus some of the sports cars and a lot of the good old time things. I'd like to introduce my daughter Shawn, who's there running the camera at the moment. She's a family historian, and she's the gal that put these albums together. I got one closing note for you. You are gazing upon the one-time owner of the Ray Joe Motor and Manufacturing Company. Ray Joe was famous for making racing heads for Model T Fords. And about 15 years ago, I bought that company, which was then in bankruptcy proceedings, and it was strictly a job shop then. The owners told me that they still thought there were some of the old patterns around for some of the old heads and things. That was one of the many things that they told me that didn't turn out to be true. So I wound up having the dishonor of finally closing that company and closing that corporation. So Rachel no longer exists, but I have fun with the name for a minute. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Very good job. Couple things I'd like to say. I have a favorite Don Skogmo story, and I hope it's apropos and doesn't offend anybody, but in 1962 or thereabouts, John and Don and I went to Indianapolis, and we ran a USAC, first pro sports car race there was, and it was a sanctioned race to the extent that we as amateurs were told that if we ran that pro race, our licenses would not be in jeopardy. The week before the race, they changed that ruling,